Hey, what's up people? It's TTC. Today we're going to do something a little bit different and hopefully quite interesting. So I was just having a clean up on my shelves where I keep all my figures displayed. I was just chucking everything in this box here just to keep it all safe and together, and it hit me. It could be at least mildly interesting just to have a rummage through all this here together. I mean, who doesn't love just pouring through a giant box of figures? I know I do. So this particular tub is all Mcfarlane DC Multiverse figures, but keep your eyes peeled because there is one or two figures from Mattel in here and maybe even a custom or two. Interesting. I think that's probably enough waffling, so don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's just dive right in and have a look at these. Well, let's start off with not a Mcfarlane figure at all. This is a DC Collectibles Greg Capullo Two-Face. I've had this thing for years and it's probably seen better days, but man, I just absolutely love the look of this figure. I love the half black and white suit. This is a look for Two-Face for me. And on mine here, some of the black paint is sort of scraped off, but with it being on that side, I don't know, I kind of like it. It works, it adds to the whole look. So I'm half tempted to dirty it up a little bit more. Here we go though, this is the reason why this Two-Face has remained the one in my collection, because just look at that face. The normal sort of Harvey Dent side is amazing, look at that. It is spot on to Greg Capullo's artwork. And then you turn it around and look at that. That is just beautiful in the most disgusting way. Capullo always drew him as this sort of more mangled, scarred up, sort of more realistic, muscle, flesh, tissue kind of look, and it's all captured here perfectly. The sculpt on this is rightfully absolutely disgusting, and all that red and pink sort of paint wash just makes it look really sore. Now, like with all DC collectibles, the articulation is pretty stiff and kind of limited too. I mean, the shoulders just go forward and backwards, and then the legs only really go about that far and got a single knee. Don't really bother me for Two-Face. He's not exactly going to be doing backflips or like really dynamic Spider-Man poses. His coin is just sculpted into his hand there. You can't actually remove it, but at least it looks good with the scarred side on it. And I lost the original little handgun that come with this, so I just have him with this, I always want to call it a Mac 10 or an Uzi, it's one of the two. It's come with one of the Mcfarlane munitions packs, and it's a little bit big for him, but for some reason it mostly works out if you have him in the right pose. I think he looks pretty cool with it. Oh, whilst we're talking about his hands, look at that hand, they've done the same thing they did on the face. Ouchie! Worth mentioning though that he is slightly smaller than most Mcfarlane figures. Alright then, let's take a look at the Diddler next. This is the Mcfarlane Arkham City version. Now this thing is cool, but I basically only own him because there's not really any others to choose from. I much prefer the Riddler in this sort of green question mark suit rather than the spandex. It makes no sense for him to be running around in a onesie. And this captures that kind of look pretty nicely with the bowler hat and the glasses and the tie and everything. And obviously he's got his question mark cane, which is a little bit bent here. A little bit of heat will straighten that right out. I believe I added just a little bit extra copper and gold paint to the end of this because it was basically just black. Some of it scraped back off again, but I kind of like the look of that. Now the jacket was originally just all cast in this sort of green colour and none of these little question marks were painted. So I just went in with a tiny brush and just picked them out in a slightly lighter green, and as you can see, it's kind of a sloppy job. Tiny details are not my forte, but who cares? You can't really see from a distance. Oh, and I got those little question marks on the back of the gloves too, because they were just purple. Standing back at a distance and the sloppy paintwork just sort of smooths out. Or at least that's what I tell myself. The head on this is cool, it's got a nice sculpt. It does look like the game version, but why are the glasses black? He's not wearing sunglasses. He's not blind. I don't really get it. They are just an extra piece that sort of sits across the nose, so I might have to peel them off and see if I can find some kind of replacement. Standing straight up and down though, just with his head cocked a bit and holding that question mark cane like that, and yeah, you know, it's a pretty good look overall. I'm definitely happy to own this one, but those glasses! Sticking with the Arkham games for a sec, and we'll have a look at this penguin that comes from Mcfarlane. This is actually the black and white version. This is a really cool figure though, I absolutely love all the sculpting detail on this. It looks spot on, exactly like what it's supposed to be. Which is a more sort of gritty, I dare say more violent looking penguin. Which I am totally fine with. I'm really not a fan of the riding in a giant rubber ducky kind of penguin. I've added some white and sort of lighter grey dry brush into the fur around his collar and his cuffs just to pick out that detail a little bit. I think it looks really nice like that. And there's a really nice sculpted texture all over the coat and that waistcoat thing and everything really. This is all just a texture heavy figure. And it needs it really, otherwise it's all just black plastic. I think I added sort of a bit of a dull greyish brown to that waistcoat too. I don't know. It's been a while now. I don't remember so good. I was originally planning on painting the face in a more skin tone colour though. I don't know why, but for some reason I actually just really like it like this for Penguin. Obviously he's not got pure white skin or grey or whatever you want to call that, but it just, I don't know, makes him look more mean and just disgusting. This version of him, the monocle's supposed to be like the end of a glass bottle just rammed in his eye. It's not a design choice I particularly like that much, but the way that they've just done it is this white circle. It's easy enough to pretend it's a normal monocle. And the hat's a nice sculpt for what it is. It's just a big chunk of black rubber that's just glued onto his head. I do remember the old DC Collectibles one though, it was removable, that would have been nice. And it wouldn't be the Penguin without his weird little fetish for umbrellas. This is a pretty nice sculpt, with it being the black and white version, the ends are just done in this flat grey, which is kinda boring I suppose. Could do with maybe like some silver or gold paint on the end of this, whatever the hell that ugly bird is supposed to be. But I suppose if you wanted that, you'd have to buy the normal version of him. Or I guess I could paint it, but you know, lazy. The articulation on him is pretty hindered really, thanks to his squat little round body. Again, it's another one where who really cares? He's just going to stand there holding his umbrella, and I think he looks pretty cool like that. Alright then, let's have a look at this. This is kind of a cool one. This is my custom Victor Zaz, so don't be too judgmental now. Alright, so weirdly enough, this is on the body of an AEW Jazzwares John Moxley figure. I actually had a massive collection of wrestling figures not that long ago, and before I sold them off, I was just having a look through them thinking, oh, what can I use for fodder? And for some reason, this just stood out as Zaz to me. I don't really know why, but I thought, yep, let's go for it. I wasn't really a fan of the one that Mcfarlane put out. I suppose it's cool enough, but that's not really my mind's eye look of Zaz. Like, I want him to look a bit more modern and a bit more creepy and dangerous, you know? Something about these camo pants, you know? They just gave me the vibe of one of those creepy guys who sits in his mum's basement just writing racist shit all over Twitter. The scars or cuts or whatever, I really like how they came out, but man, that was a pain in the ass to do. I just heated up a little blade, a little scalpel blade, and just went and did every single one of them individually. I had to keep reheating that blade so it'd actually go through the plastic easy enough, and it took longer than I wanted it to. And then I just filled them all in with a little bit of a reddy brown wash. It's a little bit rough and ready, but I actually think it looks pretty cool. And that mean look on the face, I mean, that's just Victor Zaz all day for me. And I added just a little bit of subtle dark paint under his eyes just to give him that tired, rugged look. Yeah, look at that mean look on that face. That is a guy who's going to drag you in his van and just chop you up for the hell of it. I could maybe have to turn off the beard. Obviously that'd make it more accurate, but for some reason, I don't know, I kind of like this look. Now I've just given him this knife that come with the Mcfarlane Mortal Kombat Joker, and man, you have to just ignore the fact that this is the thickest knife you've ever seen in your life. And he doesn't hold it that well, it needs just a little bit of blue tack to help it out. All together though, it ties the look in nicely, adds to the more violent military look, so I'm happy with it. Not the best custom I've ever done, but hey, it works and it fills a spot for me. Alright, let's have a look at this Arkham Knight Red Hood from Mcfarlane. This is a cool one. Now, they definitely took some liberties with the design of this character in the game, but, you know, for the most part, everything you need is there. The red mask, the red bat on the chest, the biker jacket, just sort of been updated a little bit, and for the most part, I'm quite a fan of this. I know it's not exactly everyone's cup of tea, but for me, it's just like a modernised version of his classic look. And if I think of it like that, then it fits in pretty well with all my comic figures. Come on. Yep, this hood is tight. Jeez, that hood was a stiff plastic, but there you go, there is a helmet sculpt underneath there. I like the shape of it, but some eye holes would have made it definitely better. And that red bat on the chest, that's done nicely. It is sculpted on rather than just painted. Where the back one, you know, the back one's actually supposed to look like it's painted, so I like how messy that is, that's a nice touch. It's got all these sort of ammo clips around his waist and his belt. And they're just cast in a sort of a bronzy gold plastic, but it does the job. At the time, the figures were not allowed to come with weapons, so he actually didn't have any guns. These two pistols will come from one of the Mcfarlane munitions packs, I think it was the first one. Shouldn't necessarily be a massive deal, but come on, you can't have Red Hood without guns. Alright, then we've got a Mcfarlane Anne Hathaway Catwoman from Dark Knight Rises? Yeah, that film that she was in. This is a pretty cool figure. I'm not a massive fan of the Anne Hathaway version, to be honest, but I basically bought this just to have a really good Catwoman. Disregarding the head for a second, just from the neck down, the whole body is really well done. This could pretty much just be a classic Catwoman if you really wanted it to be. There's like a pretty cool fabric-y basketball type texture sculpted to pretty much all of the suit, which is really nice. And then the gloves and the boots are done in this black, glossy, kind of vinyl, cheap hooker kind of material. Now, actors' likenesses have never really been Mcfarlane's strong suits, but I actually kind of see it for the most part there. It does look like her. I mean, is it perfect, spot on, Hot Toys quality? No, but I can definitely see her there. The way they've done the mask here is sort of like a extra rubbery plastic overlay piece that's been glued onto the face, and that works pretty well. Helps the ears stick up all pointy without them being too fragile that they might snap. I'm not a massive fan of that design really, and here's why, because from the top they don't look like cat ears, they just look like she's got some kind of radar dish on her head. I personally don't really need it to actually look like her though, because to me this is more just like a more detailed live action version of a comic book Catwoman. Obviously it suffers from the Mcfarlane absolutely massive legs that they seem to give their women, but overall it is a pretty decent figure. Popping the head off, you can really see how this could probably quite easily be like a Hush version of Catwoman like that. Oh man, I might have to re-buy the Arkham version of Catwoman just to pop the head off and stick it on this. Now I usually have a pose with this really stupid little cat accessory that come with my wife's Figure Arts Sailor Moon figure. From the front, you know, you can see the face, that ain't gonna work, that's proper cutesy anime crap. But you know, if you have it facing away and sort of curling around your ankles like cats do, then as a silhouette at least, I think it works pretty well. Alright, here's another custom. This is my Mcfarlane Deadshot that I made probably 2 or 3 years ago, so this could be embarrassing. Alright, so the body on this is a good solid 90% the movie Bloodsport figure. I bought it dirt cheap and then I've just painted it up in the sort of Deadshot red and blacks and then just added the odd little bits like this ammo on his shoulder here. That come from a DC Collectibles Deathstroke. And then the guns on his wrists, I actually made them from that baton that came from the Gotham Knights Batgirl or whatever it was. I just cut it in half and glued it onto the back of these gauntlets here. And if you didn't know any better, then I think it does the trick. Believe it or not, the torso and the legs are actually painted black, but for whatever reason, it looks very brown through the camera here. So here's another one who couldn't come with any guns at the time, but luckily here's another one from one of those Mcfarlane munitions packs, and I've just sort of painted it with a bit of red and silver, the odd bit of gold just to sort of tie it into the colour scheme of the figure. I highly doubt this is actually a real world gun. I mean, look at the size of that. He holds it well enough just sort of resting against his shoulder like this, and you know, for a pose that looks pretty good. It's maybe a little bit big to actually have him holding it two-handed. I mean, obviously it works, but he looks a little bit stupid like that. The head was actually a cast that I bought off eBay, and in just sort of the grey plastic, it looked really cool. But as I've painted it up, I don't know, it's sort of just being white loses all the definition of the wrinkles on the face. And there wasn't really any defining line where the mask would end and his eye would begin. So it kind of just looks like a white head of chewed up gum or something with an eye sticking out of it. But I suppose at least the scope looks good on the other eye. It's probably just my crappy painting skills, but altogether it does at least look half decent. Alright, who have we got? Let's have a look at Peacemaker next. So as a character, I could not give a crap about Peacemaker. I've only read maybe 1 or 2 comics with him in, and they were not good, and I'm not really a massive fan of that movie either. But I've always been a massive wrestling fan, pretty much my entire life, and oh, John Cena, I know it's cliche, but he's always been one of my favourite wrestlers, so that's basically the reason why I own this. It is a half decent figure though. I mean, they got the look of it down perfectly. Another one that didn't come with any guns, but in that munitions pack was this really long pistol, which is pretty clearly supposed to be his. And then it did actually come with a sword, because, you know, they don't want kids playing with guns, but a sword is fine, I guess. And it holds them both pretty damn well, at least. I painted the gun a slightly brighter silver, along with that helmet too, because originally it was just sort of a dark greyish plastic, like this sword here. You know, sort of a little bit metallic, but also kind of dull and boring. So I think just adding that sort of shiny silver paint just helps it stand out quite a lot better. It's maybe not completely chrome and reflective like it was in the movie, but it's close enough if you ask me. Speaking of the helmet, it's well sculpted. It looks exactly what it's supposed to be, considering it has a really stupid shape. The face underneath, it's not too bad there. It looks mostly like John Cena, but there is an unmasked version of this, and oh, the face on that is ugly. So I was smart enough when I sold off all my wrestling figures to keep hold of this head, because Mattel just did a really, really good job of this. It looks exactly like him. I like the way they've done the hair. Can't fault it at all, really. You'd have to get a different sized neck peg to get it to fit perfectly, but apart from the fact that his face is maybe a little bit tanned, it does work. It might not be perfect, but I'm happy with this. Batman. Alright, so this is clearly the Mcfarlane Ben Affleck version of him. I don't really have any strong ties to any of those movies, to be honest, but I really liked the look of the costume. That's why I bought this figure. It's basically just like a realistic, updated comic book Batman, and can't really fault it for that. I mean, it looks damn good with all this texture, and it's sort of grimy and dirty. It's got kind of some battle scars and dings, and oh, I just really love the look of it. I don't think there's any likeness to Ben Affleck, to be honest, but like I said, don't really care about that. The cowl at least looks good. I do believe I painted the eyes white, because it's Batman. He needs white lenses, simple as that. No argument about it. And even though it's quite common to most Mcfarlane figures, this one has definitely got quite the nappy. And just the way they do that crotch, leg articulation, man. He's all crotch, this Batman. I do like that gold belt though, that was a good choice. The boots down here are missing that little gold tip on the end of the toes, that would have been nice. Big floppy fabric cape. I'm not usually a massive fan of soft goods, to be honest. But this works pretty well. I mean, look at it, it's got quite the wingspan on that. Jesus, look at that. It's been a while since I've seen it all spread out. It's quite impressive. And then you come with this ridiculously thick Batarang. Like, I actually really like the shape that they went for this movie design. But Mcfarlane, I assume for safety reasons, made it as thick as a friggin' phone book. I mean, look at that. You can use it to stop bad guys and prop up a wonky table. Luckily, I had one of these still sort of knocking around, I think from an old DC Collectibles Batman that I had. I think it was the DC Icons one. It's much more of a classic shape, and it's much thinner, without being too thin that you're worried it might snap. Getting towards the bottom here now, let's have a look at this Kit Bash Custom Harley. Now, I've actually already done a video on both this and the Joker that's further down in this box, so I'm not going to waste time going into too much detail on this. So I took the body of a Mattel, I think theirs was called Multiverse in the End figure, popped the head off and replaced it with this one from the Mcfarlane Birds of Prey Harley, and then I think I just used a bit of acetone to get rid of some of the tattoos, then added just a little bit more makeup and a bit more colour into her hair, just to kind of bring it back into more of a comic book look. There is the tiniest bit of difference in skin tone between the head and the neck, but I personally don't really think it's that noticeable. As an overall look, especially holding that hammer that also came with the Birds of Prey Harley, then I'm just really happy with how this came out. Suppose we better do Joker next. So this is pretty much just 99% the Mortal Kombat Joker, which is just a really cool, darker, sort of modern look for him, really. I haven't changed too much of this one, really. It's basically still the video game design, but I've just added the odd little bit of paint here and there just to spruce it up a bit, like these silver buttons running down the shirt, and then painting in the details on his belt. Before that, they just sort of blended into the sculpt and got completely lost. A dry brush, some much brighter kind of neon green over the hair, because it was more of a foresty, darker green. It helps pick out all the details, and if you ask me, it helps it look a bit more comic booky too. And I'm just going to zoom in on this face here, because man, I love that head sculpt. That is a proper evil smile. Again, from the munitions pack, is this absolutely massive revolver. I mean, who else is that going to go to other than Joker? Just needs like a flag with the word bang sticking out the end of it now. Choices. Go on then, let's have Robin. This is the Mcfarlane Tim Drake Robin. I have strongly mixed feelings about this figure. There's so many things that they did right, like the overall look of the costume and everything, really, really well done. I like this super bright green plastic that they chose for those parts, that's really nicely done too. And it's a pretty damn nice sculpt on the cape. And I actually really like the way they add all these sort of panelled armour lines to the suit, make it look less boring. The head sculpt though, it's weird. Like in one way, pretty good, but look at him from the side, I mean, Jesus, that is a chin and a half right there. Look at these sideburns, man. I mean, how old is he supposed to be? It's because the hair's a separate piece, which I suppose doesn't look too bad on its own. Really like the way they did the R in his chest, though. That's pretty damn important part of Robin. If you mess that up, then you might as well not bother. Massive thighs. Accessory-wise, he comes with someone's drain pipe. I mean, this bow staff is way too big. I get them not wanting to make it dead thin so it'd snap, but you've probably gone too far in the other direction. Honestly, it's bothered me for so long that I just choose to try and ignore it now. Then he's got a little batarang, bird-rang, wing, ding. You know, I can't remember what robins are called, but, you know, there you go. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Nope, Superman. Let's have a look at Superman next. This is the Mcfarlane Rebirth Superman. Now, I'm not a giant DC Comics fan. I'm mostly just into Batman, but come on, you gotta have a Superman. Never been a massive fan of his classic look with the giant undies on the outside, so I much prefer either this look or the new 52 one, and since that one's only really just been announced, then I didn't really have much of a choice but to grab this guy. I'm happy enough, it's a pretty cool look. I mean, the shorter cape actually kind of does it for me, and I like the shape that it's been sculpted into here. The flowing wrinkles and folds and whatever, all really nicely sculpted. The S shield on his chest, I mean, look at that. That's spot on, really, really nicely done, and I really like this sort of metallic cherry red plastic that they chose. The little diamond belt is done in more of a matte red plastic, and I don't know, I just sort of felt the need to tie in a bit more red because it's a very blue costume design. So I sort of matched the paint colours, and then I just painted these little cuffs around the wrists that were originally blue. And then I added a little bit more to the outline of the boots. I mean, Mcfarlane had originally painted this design on totally wrong, so I was going to fix it anyway. Might as well just go ahead and do it the way I wanted to. And then I added a gloss coat to these boots just to make them stand out a little bit from the rest of the costume. I am definitely a fan of the head sculpt on this. I don't know if it's supposed to look like any specific artist's interpretation or what, but to me that looks like Superman, you know? You've got the stupid curly hair. And then of course the massive square chin that, if you honestly look like that in real life, you'd probably check for some kind of tumour. And even though I'm not an absolutely massive Superman fan, everybody knows that if you're going to pose him, you've got to stick him right up on a flight stand with his hands on his hips. The articulation isn't perfect, but if you fart around long enough, you can get him looking pretty damn good. Let's save Nightwing from his loneliness. I didn't intentionally leave him until last, but it's probably best that I did, because he's definitely one of my favourite characters. And this, again, far from a perfect figure, but man, I really, really like the way they did this. I mean, this is him wearing his Rebirth costume, but then at some point, I really didn't like the arms on this, so I've just replaced them with the gauntlets from the Rebirth Batman, actually. And even though they might be slightly big, I really love the way that they look on there. I mean, look at that. It adds so much. And it's sort of reminiscent of his new 52 look. I don't know about you, I'm sure some people will think this is sacrilege, but I think that looks way better. The blue bird on his chest is really well done too. They chose exactly the right tone of blue, I think. And it is actually sculpted on rather than just being painted, so that's a really nice touch. Obviously, when you move the shoulders, it's going to break up the line work, but I'd rather that than have a figure wearing a cloth costume. The good thing about the Rebirth design is how it sort of just ties in a little bit more blue, like around the boots and on the knuckles there. Just makes what was mostly a black costume a little bit more interesting. The head sculpt's pretty nice, apart from maybe looking a little bit bored. I really like the way they did the hair though. I mean, this is like the perfect length and it's got a nice dramatic sort of flow to it. And I much, much prefer the mask being blue over black. Again, it just makes it slightly less plain. So I bought this second hand and he did not have his Screamer sticks, which was pretty annoying. However, I just bought a plastic stick basically, cut it in half, painted it black, and for the most part, it does the trick. It fits size-wise, so it's not going to fall out of his hands, and it's the right length. They're definitely a temporary measure. They're not perfect, but it does look pretty cool holding them at least. I'm planning on 3D printing some better ones, you know, with a bit more detail to them. But basically, they've just joined the massive list of things that I keep meaning to get round to 3D printing, and then I just don't, because I'm stupid. But again, they definitely work as a temporary measure, and you get him in the right sort of pose, and I definitely think this is just a really cool looking Nightwing. Right, so I at least had fun looking through all these. I mean, when they're all on the shelf together or whatever, it's pretty easy to forget exactly what's there, so it's nice to go through them all one by one. Make sure you like this video and drop us a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. plenty more videos coming, including Marvel, Star Wars, even some more DC stuff like this. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers!